All right, you guys, welcome to Robert Brand's Staying Out of Court. We thought it was very important for everybody to get an update on the different strategies that he has. They are amazing, and we're very, very lucky to have him. I'm just going to hand it right over to you, Robert.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. I will be going from now until, let me just make sure my time right, until noon, and I never go over time. So I know a lot of speakers, they keep going, but you could, right on the second or something or near there, I'll be done. And if you ever have any questions at all or want to get, something answered or my opinion, you can just call me. Email is really better, so I can copy in like your manager so they know what I'm saying, but that's always available to you. So I always like to give a shout out to who I think is the best source of real estate information in California, Gov Hutchison. I think just about everybody knows him or knows of him with Carr, and he's just does a phenomenal resource. So whenever he's passing through town or whatever, and you have the opportunity to listen to him, he's just a phenomenal guy. So big topic, my sole topic. This is I hate to say this out loud, but this is my 32nd year in California here talking about this one single topic. It's by far the number one source of litigation against residential agents. So we'll cover as much time as I can. I do not charge for what I do, never have. I do not sell anything whatsoever. So I'm very graciously sponsored by service providers. Here are their logos, and I'm just going to do about 3 or 4 minutes of content and then have them, say hello to you, and so they can get on with their day. And so let's get going on, starting with the visual inspection. Just a disclaimer, if there's anything I say that's different than your company policy, go with company policy. I don't think that'll happen, but I do like to say that. So assuming everybody uses the AVID, if that's not a mandatory form by law, but just almost every agent uses it in California, at least that are with the sizable companies. Notice it says that we do a visual inspection. So a question that might arise is, does that mean that the only thing that you're doing is just visual in terms of the senses that we have as human beings, like, hearing and all the other stuff? And the answer actually is no. Even though it does say visual, it's more than that. They haven't changed the wording, but it really is more than that. It's really kind of morphed to mean any sensory perception. So 2 examples. Let's say I'm either side of the deal. I'm doing my Avid thing, a 2-story home. I'm upstairs. I'm going from room to room. And as I cross the hallway, I get the impression, just slight impression, barely there, but I get an impression that maybe the flooring is in some areas very slightly uneven. Most people probably wouldn't notice it, but I do. Well, that would be a disclosure issue. I can't look at the floor and see, but it's a sense of balance. So that's more than visual. Probably a lightweight disclosure, like upstairs hallway floor appears to have some unevenness or something like that, and that's not going to freak anybody out. Then I'm downstairs, kind of family room, kitchen area, and there's a really, really strong, what I would call like a mildew smell or musty odor in that area, but it's like overpowering. So I want to make a disclosure, but I have to be careful how I write it down. I don't want to say there's a musty or mold odor, because the musty is too close to the word mold. We never want to say it out loud if we can avoid it. We definitely don't want to write it down. Never want to have it part of our disclosure, because the detection of mold is just way outside of our standard of care. You're not going to write down, this part of the house really stinks or whatever. Got to come with something better. So a suggestion I have in the notes that you'll be getting, that I'll get to Michelle and she can send on. to you, like obvious odor noted in family room area, something like that, or kitchen. So you have to be careful about the wording. And the notes that you'll be getting from me, I think they're 5 or 6 pages now. I update them about every 2 months, and there's be a lot of disclosure information in there. So any sensory perception. And the only 2 categories that we cover when we're doing our limited agents visual inspection are defects and or red flags. That's it. And just some quick definitions. A defect, simple example would be kitchen windows broken. And that's our disclosure, cracked window. It's not a big crack, small crack. Upper right corner crack is not from the rock or the baseball or the frisbee, just cracked window. Make it as simple as you can. Anytime we get into specifics, they can become arguable, but everybody would agree the window's cracked. And the other category, besides defects, are red flags. That's where, the window we know is messed up. We don't know what's going on here, making it a red flag. It's a suspicion. And a very common, since I look at a ton of avids, a very common disclosure would be there's a water stain on the ceiling or something like that. Well, I don't know if it's from water or there's a large water stain. I don't want to use the word large. I want to use as few words as I can. So I'm not going to go up in the attic. That's outside my standard of care. I don't know if this is from water. I don't know if they're storing something like they could have white wine stored in the attic and a bottle could break. There's a lot of things I don't know, but I do need to make a disclosure. I'm not going to say large water stain or medium, large, just stain noted at ceiling. And if there's maybe a window below there, I could say, above window, in the area above window. But I want to make a disclosure, but I have to be careful that I don't put too many words or descriptive words in that disclosure where they can come back and kind of bite me. So lots of challenges. I'll just mention 2 of them for time's sake. I'm in the living room, with the Avid. And when I mention the Avid, I'm going to you probably have it on your phone or your iPad or something. I'm just going to go with like the form in my examples. A lot of people still do use that. Anyway, I can't find anything to say in the living room. Now I'm just doing my agent's limited Avid type inspection. There's nothing to say. It's like, it looks fine. Well, I don't want to say it looks good because that's a compliment and I'm not there to compliment the room. But I notice a ceiling fan. I think, okay, good. I've got something to disclose, like ceiling fan noted or whatever. But a ceiling fan is not a defect or red flag. It's inventory. And I'm not supposed to list inventory on the Avid. It's got nothing to do with inventory or what the sellers have or what they're leaving behind. So I'll give you an answer to that in a second. One more of many challenges. I'm trying to keep this brief. Spiderweb challenge. That's where you go into like a bedroom and it looks just fine subjectively, and you're trying to find something to say, but there's just nothing worthy of disclosure, which is a good thing, by the way. The fewer things that require a disclosure, the less chance of a lawsuit. But I noticed a spider web in the corner, whatever ceiling. There's a temptation to mention it just to kind of prove I was in the room, like spider web noted above window or something, but it doesn't fall into the category of a defect or red flag, so it really doesn't belong on the Avid. So what do you say? What do you write down when you can't find anything to say about a room? Well, having done this for a long time statewide, the most common expression that is used is nothing noted. Now, if your company has a problem with that, I don't think they would, but if they do, go with the company policy. But it means there is a living room. Not all homes have them. I did go in it. I didn't forget. I just didn't see anything really worthy of disclosure. Now, the only complaint I've ever had about nothing noted is when a home is in absolutely pristine condition and you have nothing noted, nothing noted, nothing noted. It looks like the complaint is, hey, they'll say, Robert, it looks like I never even showed up. Well, there's a way around that, but nothing noted is a great thing to write down. Okay, let's say hello to our sponsors. Again, they've heard me many, many, many times and probably need to get on with their day. So we'll get a hello from them and some comments. So Teresa is here, and if you could unmute and whatever, and there you are. Take it away.
Thank you, Bob. Well, first of all,
Yeah.
let me say thank you for having me back. We at First American love supporting you, especially with your education courses. And thank you to our KW friends. And for those of you who don't know me at KW, my name is Teresa Gorham. I am the JC rep for Sacramento and Placer County. And I've been with First American JCP for 9 years. Before I joined First American, I was an independent transaction coordinator for 17 years. So essentially 26 years of the disclosure world. And there's a quote by J.K. Simmons, if you guys remember the Farmers Insurance commercial, and I'm sure Bob may resonate with this one. I know a few things because I've seen a few things. And it's true, especially in our industry. One thing I think we can all agree on is that we have an ever-changing industry. And I was chatting with my friend Stephanie Jeter, she's our home warranty rep, yesterday. And I said, you know, I remember when the RPA was 8 pages and it had carbon copies. And so we were chuckling and just going back to how we live in such a litigious state, and then keeping up with new laws and regulations is like having a full-time job. Rest assured, we want our agents to know that you don't have to be the all-knowing in the NHD world. That is really our job. So what's happening in our neck of the woods? A few things I just want to fill you in on. Last February 22nd, FEMA updated their flood maps. These areas that are affected is Citrus Heights, unincorporated areas of Citrus Heights, and the city of Folsom. Apparently 1,080 parcels was now included in high risk, and 48 parcels were taken out of high risk. So if you currently have a transaction in any of these areas, please let me know, because we may want to get ahead of that before you close escrow. Secondly, effective April 1st, CAL FIRE will be releasing their new FEMA fire zone maps in the SRA. If you're not familiar with what the SRA is, that is your wildland and unincorporated areas. Do you have a current listing in the SRA? Are you working with a buyer in the SRA? If you're not sure, please reach out to me and I can look at the map layers for you. If it's confusing, please know we're here to help you. Another change that you may be aware of, but if you're not, January 2024, the NHD statement was newly amended to align with AB 38. So basically what that means is you're going to edit, it's going to be a little easier for our agents to figure out if the FHDS disclosure is required. And again, if that's still confusing, we have the Fire Insight for you. It's the first page of our report that tells you whether if you're in or out, or if you need to complete that disclosure. I recommend being proactive. Order your NHD at front. You want to get ahead of flood and fire insurance challenges. And if your seller needs to complete the FHDS disclosure. Service for me is very, very important. I order personally for my clients. I flag your orders for fire, flood certs, and PACE liens. I reach out to you personally to let you know. Oftentimes I do research the report for my clients. They'll give me a call and say, Teresa, take a look at it. And I absolutely do that. So if you're not already working with an NHD rep, I would love to work with you. And if you have any questions, I'll put my name and phone number and contact information in chat. Thank you for having me, Bob. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Let's get on to Craig, who I saw earlier, and if you could unmute. And Craig's, I think he's a famous home inspector. He may not say that, but Golden State's a very big company, very comprehensive services, extremely good reputation. And take it away, Craig.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
Thanks
morning.
for that introduction. I don't know about famous, but I have been around a while. We are celebrating our 25th year in business this year, so we're not going anywhere. Yeah, we like to be full service. We have Golden State inspections, but we also have Defender Termite and Pest Management. You can make one call, it goes to the same office. Easily book one or both inspections if you need it. We do a lot of hand holding. We're very detailed. We don't miss things, but we're able to walk people through in an unexciting way to where we aren't alarmists. We're not going to create a problem where none exists. Everything can be solved. So in a calm manner, we'll walk people through. If we find something, we find something, but we'll let them know how it can be resolved. And then sometimes people will ask us if we would actually buy the house, and my answer to them is I would always buy a house if the price is right, and then I throw it back on you guys to determine that part of it. And I have bought houses in all sorts of conditions. We try to be full service, so besides residential inspections, we also do commercial. Again, we do the WDO inspections for termites. We can do pest control. We do mold testing, mold remediation. We have a construction crew, sewer camera inspections, infrared, pool and spa. So we try to cover all the bases, and our reports again are very detailed. They're pictures on both the home inspection and the termite reports. And we're always available for questions. So if you have any clients that 6 months after they move in and they're either dealing with a contractor or they just want some advice on something, I always welcome them to give us a call. And we're kind of their inspector for life. So I've had people call me several years after the inspection and say, hey, you did an inspection for us, and I had a question thinking about adding a bedroom to the back of the house. And of course, I have to scramble and pull up the report because I won't remember it after that many inspections, but I will get back to them and talk to them and try to give them some free advice. So again, I'm Craig with Golden State Inspections, Defender Termite and Pest Management. Feel free to give us a call. I think I did put my information in the chat. So you have that, and we're here to help.
Great. Thank you very much, Craig. Nice seeing you again. And before I continue on, we have Legal Services America. Virgil's here. You can unmute. And this is a phenomenal company. And I know he's going to be brief, but they provide a service that is just remarkable. And I'll just leave it at that and take it away, Virgil.
I so appreciate this opportunity, Mr. Brand. Good morning, everyone there at Keller Williams Premier. Excuse me. My name is Virgil Flores, Legal Services of America. We're located here in Rancho Murrieta, not too far from you folks, I believe. And our company specializes in risk management for the buyers and sellers. We now provide what we call homeowners risk management, which is going to effectively prevent over 97%. That's our track record, over 97% of any threat of lawsuit from ever rising to the level of an E&O reportable claim. Now, the way that we do that is we're going to provide your buyers and sellers with mediation after the close of escrow. And since the RPA directs them that way anyway, now when there's an unhappy buyer or a problem exists after the close of escrow, we're going to be there to manage it and to keep it away from you folks so you can stay legally healthy and out of court. One other benefit in that homeowners risk management is many times the buyers and sellers will ask the real estate agent to give them legal advice. We know, of course, you never want to try to give legal advice. That could turn into a lawsuit for you. So now when there is a legal question, even prior to the close of escrow, that could impede the transaction, as part of your value add to the client, you're going to give them an attorney as part of your team. We're going to now answer any and all legal questions for the buyer and seller, help walk them through to escrow, remove any legal pitfalls, and keep everybody, again, legally healthy and out of court. My name's Virgil Flores. I'm with Legal Services of America, and please call on me. I'd be happy to come to a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's great when, a lot of these problems arise after closing where the buyers move in and they never told us this was wrong or that's wrong. And when you have a 97% chance of making it go away, is just a phenomenal record and phenomenal service. Thank you very much. Okay, back to our topic and the question I get a lot, and that is the remarkable condition home, pristine home. Hey, Robert, I can't find anything to put on the Avid or anything else, so I got nothing noted everywhere. So here's a solution to that, although it's not a terribly serious problem, but it comes up a lot. Here in California, the majority of homes, not all, some in the mountain resort areas and stuff like that, Big Bear, Tahoe, whatever, are different. But most homes, or a lot of them, have stucco siding that you see on the left, a brick, which I don't have a picture of. We all know what that looks like. And then concrete driveways, patios, poolside or whatever. It is impossible, I think, to find any home where all of these surfaces, because they're so hard, are crack free. It doesn't mean that there's a problem with them. It just means there's something you can write down. Like, and I love the word some cracks noted at, and fill in the blank, exterior siding, backyard patio, brickwork at the front of the house, whatever it is. Some is a great word, because if you say, like on a patio, there are three they're not settling cracks, by the way. They're not normal settling cracks. Those are all terms we never want to use. They're just cracks, that's all. And it could be in a tile floor, like a dining room tile floor, just some cracks noted at floor. Some is a great word, because if you have a really picky buyer and you've disclosed that there are three cracks in the patio, well, maybe you missed one or two, or it was covered up, or you got a kind of persnickety buyer that's, has really researched this or gone out there with a fine-tooth comb. No, there's actually 5 cracks, and I wouldn't mind 2 of them, but there's 5 and all that. But some is generic and means more than one. So that's something that you can always say. If you're wondering where to write it down, there's other places on the Avid, but where's my high-tech arrow? There it is. At the very end, or near the very end, is a kind of a catch-all: other observed or known conditions not specified above. So it can always go there at the very least, if not before. So that works really well. Okay. Okay. Let me just back up. Stating the obvious. This is when you're representing a buyer and you're showing them, let's say you're showing them this home, the one on the right with the white fence. Well, it's really easy to see that there's a school across the street. Maybe that's a big plus for them, because they've got kids that go to that school. Who knows? Or maybe they don't. Well, the issue is, sometimes when we're involved in a transaction, there is something that is so obvious we think we don't need to disclose it. And that's a mistake. We do need to disclose it. The other potential problem is we disclose it the wrong way, and that can backfire on us too. So here is a common mistake that is made. The agent will list out things that may affect, we don't really have to mention the things that are good, because nobody's going to sue over those, but some of the negative things, like there's going to be gridlock, in the morning and afternoon, kids dropped off, kids picked up. There's going to be sporting events at the school, and the bell, I don't know if they still do bells for class change, but kids hanging around. There's just going to be a lot of things going on. The problem is, if you itemize it, they can always find, or their attorneys can find, something that's not on the list. So I'll give you an answer to how to solve that problem. You mentioned that there's gridlock in the morning, and the buyers say, hey, that doesn't really bother us. We're not going anywhere at that time of the morning and afternoon. What really bothers us is they have the band practicing out here every afternoon or something like that. Well, there's a disclosure that covers all of it. Let's see, where was I? I travel a lot. LA area, Interstate 10, La Cienega or something. I don't know what the cross street is. You look at that house there. It's hard to get closer to a freeway. Right over the ivy hedge, there's an on-ramp. So here's an example. We disclose that there's a freeway nearby, which we got to do no matter how obvious it is. Buyers may experience noise would be one of them. A big freeway, it's going to be 24 hours a day. Gasoline fumes, and we've got a couple other things. Well, if the buyers are kind of litigation prone, and in California, they'll be besieged by things in the mail, in their email, just showing up everywhere from attorney firms. If you've got any problems in the house, come and see us, and we can, make it go away, and you can probably get some money too. Well, if we mention that there's gasoline fumes, all the buyers have to say is, gasoline fumes don't bother us. What really bothers us are diesel fumes. We didn't even think about that, and you didn't mention them. And you go, oh gosh, how long do I have to make the list? So I'll give you a solution there. And one more picture, and then we'll get to an answer. Shopping center. There's been some litigation with the houses up above, and I've been involved. It's about 1/4 of a mile long, so it's pretty big. There's a Target, big box supermarket, a bunch of other stores, and the houses up above, nice homes, view homes, kind of expensive places, and there's been some complaints about the level of delivery truck noise, but not so much during the day. It's that it never stops. Where a buyer will say, well, we knew we're buying by a shopping center. We like the view, so we're willing to, deal with the shopping center. But we thought that since Target closes like at 9 o'clock or whatever, the things would quiet down. Well, in larger shopping centers, there are deliveries 24 hours a day, and they back up and you get the beep, 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 beep thing and so forth. So here, let me kind of get to the answer. First of all, or an answer, we should disclose things that are obvious. Never say, well, the buyers can so easily see the highway, the freeway, the Walmart across the street, whatever it is. I don't really need to say anything. It's an insult to their intelligence. Forget about that. It's better to disclose. It's just how we disclose. And an example would be when we disclose something near the property. It's, in my opinion, you want to disclose what is there, never the details of what might bother these particular buyers about what is there. So, for example, there is a freeway near the house. They move in, and instead of saying, you told us about the gasoline fumes, and they don't bother us, but you didn't tell us about the diesel fumes. Well, we're not disclosing the gasoline fumes. We're letting them know, quote unquote, there is a freeway near the house. So anything they complain about regarding the proximity of that freeway is in that disclosure. Hey, we have a problem with diesel fumes. Well, that's because there's a freeway near the house. We have a problem with blown out tires flying off the freeway. That's because there's a freeway near the house. It's a better way to go, in my opinion. A school is close to this property. That covers the gridlock in the morning and the afternoon, and the band practice and the football practice and the kids hanging around. Whatever they complain about, in terms of living close to a school, even though you think they wouldn't have missed that, can be consumed or addressed in that short disclosure. Better not to make a list of specifics. And back finally to the shopping center, probably something like, a shopping center is located behind this property. You mentioned the deliveries. Well, maybe it's I don't have my keys with me, car keys, but when people get out of their car to go shopping, they push a button that locks the doors and the horn beeps. We hear horns beeping all day. Nobody told us about that. And the deliveries, we figure they were shutting down in the evening, but at 3 a.m, they're still going, and they're backing up their truck and it's beep, 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 beep. Well, that's because as I disclosed to you, there's a shopping center behind your property. That's what happens to shopping centers. Better to go that way, in my opinion. Okay, how do you disclose, or let's talk about wear and tear items? Those are minor issues in the property, and we think the most common thing is, look, I don't want to mention every little thing. So do I really incorporate wear and tear stuff into my disclosure? So here's some examples: the scuff marks at the baseboard, the carpet's dirty, whatever. So anyway, generally the answer is no. Generally, statewide, there's no disclosure for these observations. It's a lived-in home. There's going to be I wouldn't write down normal wear and tear. I never want to write the word normal down. It's too litigious, but there is wear and tear in every home that's been lived in. So usually no disclosure. And if you do start disclosing, lower the bar down to wear and tear, kind of have to disclose all of it. And then it becomes too burdensome. There's too much information you're conveying, and it overwhelms the client. Way too much in the avid, and we don't want that to happen. So now this is just sort of a funny little thing I'd like to use to illustrate a meaningful disclosure represented by a guy that's wearing a red and white shirt somewhere in this crowd. The game, I've never actually played it, but I've seen it. It's called, you probably know it. Many of you do. Where's Waldo? Well, if I do this, you can find him really quickly. But I can't find him. Oh, by the way, he was arrested the other day, got in trouble with the law. Just kidding. Anyway, it's hard to find him when you don't have that big arrow going down there. And that's a disclosure issue I want to get to, but there's too many other things in the way. So we don't want to go in that direction. I'll have more on the notes on this, but we do not want to get so repetitive, so particular, that we got way too many disclosures about things that never, ever result in litigation. Now, this is kind of a controversial issue. I'll give you my opinion with the caveat, always go with company policy there at Keller Williams. You're just, but this is the majority view. You know, if you've been around a long time, a really long time ago, and I was here in the business a really long time ago, agents would take like their own camera and take pictures of a crack or a stain or something. Then they got into bringing disposable cameras. They went on the market, and just to kind of prove what the room looked like, or the garage was a mess or something. But the question is not whether or not we can take photos. And there's a program, this is probably the most popular one, the Glide program, part of ZipForm, where it's really, really easy to insert the photos. The question is not, is it easy to insert them? Is it easy to take them? It's whether or not we should, and whether or not, mainly, whether or not that increases our liability. There's a lot of things that we don't do because we're not required to as a real estate licensee. And doing those things just increase our liability. It's just, outside of our standard of care. But anyway, most of us have like cameras on your phone's probably better than mine, but even mine has a camera on it. Okay, so here's something to consider. If we go back to the Avid and just read what we're asked to do, it says visual inspection. It does not hint at or include any kind of special equipment to do that visual inspection. It's kind of been described as a sort of hands behind your back, a little bit more than strolling through the property, but certainly not doing a big inspection of it. It's sort of a middle ground, somewhat casual, somewhat focused walk around the property, but it's a visual inspection. We have to keep that in mind. Competent and diligent visual inspection. If you do take photos and there's a lawsuit, I can guarantee you will never take enough photos to satisfy who's ever going after you. So you can never take enough. And knowing that, some agents go in the wrong direction. I'll just take a zillion photos, and that's just overwhelming and not an answer. The reality is we don't need to take them at all. Let me just look at the chat room here. Yeah. Oh, by the way, somebody asked for my email. I put it in the chat room. So anyway, back to the photo thing. The only exception I've ever seen statewide is, and this is kind of a funny picture, but it's a real one. Let's say the garage looks like this. Now, if I don't get to it as a general principle, if you go on, you're doing your Avid thing, you walk into the family room, and your first thought is, wow, like, what a mess. I don't want to be responsible for what things look like in this room. I can't see anything. There's too much stuff in the way. So what we normally do, and this is in the notes, but you probably do it anyway, something like a disclosure or caution: extensive personal belongings prohibited, my visual inspection of, in this case, the garage. So that's kind of a standard thing to say. So, and that's not a bad thing to say. But something that a lot of agents don't realize is that when we disclaim the garage or the family room or bedroom, that means we're not responsible for any problems that may emanate from the home, from that room. Well, the reality is that nobody, with very, 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 very rare exceptions, nobody ever calls you back to finish up. They'll never say, oh, I looked at the Avid, you couldn't get into the second bedroom on the left. We've got it unlocked now, you can come back and finish. That rarely happens. So your disclaimer, like say the garage, unable, like, don't complain to me about this. I cannot even walk through here. I'm not doing my visual inspection, and that's not your fault. It's because the sellers have it this way. Even though the sellers will want to clean it up, they rarely do, and escrow usually closes in this condition. And the good thing for you, even though it would be nice to be able to check things out, the good thing for you is that you have made a disclosure that was never overturned or challenged because the seller never went to the effort of going in that direction. So not a big fan of taking photos. Here is let me see how we're doing on time because I never go over time, about 25 more minutes. Okay. Here's a really simple way to take a rough draft disclosure statement that you maybe scratched out, like maybe I should say this, and in just a few seconds, turn it into a final disclosure that will provide the information but not get you into legal hot water. Does not cost anything. You don't have to download an app or whatever. And once you get into it, or even before you get into it, because it's kind of, you start out okay, takes about a half a minute to do. Let's say I have the buyers and I am doing my avid inspection, and I will get to it, I think, before I finish up. You may think, many agents would, my buyers are going to have the home inspected. I'm going to be there. So that's when I'm going to do my avid. It's one of the worst things we can do. One of the worst things we can do from a liability standpoint. We want to have the avid done before the home inspector gets there, even if it's the same day, where we have time in 8 a.m., time out 9:15 p.m., and the home inspector doesn't show up till 10:30, showing that we were in and out before the home inspector. We stayed within our standard of care. We were not influenced by what he saw by getting a bit more invasive in the inspection. But anyway, more on that later if I have time. So I'm doing my regular avid inspection. And I'm representing the buyers, but the sellers have let me in the door or something. I've done the upstairs, nothing to say. I can't find anything to disclose. Now I'm downstairs, maybe near kitchen area perhaps, and I see a couple of, well, to me, I would never say this out loud, and I'd never write it down. Looks like some smaller, minor mold stains. Now, I'd never, ever, ever write that down, because I don't want to say small and I don't want to say minor. I'm not a mold expert, but I've noticed them on the wall to the left of the refrigerator. That's the only thing I've noticed in the whole house. So I would probably disclose two small black. Well, I may want to disclose two small black mold stains noted, but I don't want to give numbers. Small is an adjective. Never want to use a color, and there is no way on earth I'm going to write down the word mold or even imply it. So all I have is stains noted at wall to the left of the refrigerator or something like that. Ideal disclosure without setting myself or my company up for a problem later on. So rough draft to a final disclosure. Let me just mention here, I'll give you some examples of how to condense a disclosure. Very, very important, because if we make it too long, there's a lot of room for them, meaning it could be anybody in the transaction, even who you represented. But anyway, let me show you a couple of signs that really fit into this topic well. Supermarket changes, name change. Supermarkets names change around California, like Safeway in the northern part of the state. They don't really have them in the southern part, like San Diego or parts of it. They just have a different name on whatever. But in one of them, one of the big ones, this is the express lane. We all probably use it. We're all in real estate. We're probably usually in a hurry. It's very clear, 15 items or fewer. There's been a time, well, just really one time I can think of, where I wanted to get out of there. So I actually had, I think, 18 items. And there was some guy next to me objected to it. He counted how many things I had, and he called the manager over. And he said, this guy's got 18. It says 15, whatever. And it's kind of a pain in the neck. Well, another major shopping center does this, and this is ingenious. About 15 items. Same concept, people going into that line who have fewer things, but it's not so crystal clear. There's some flexibility there. So I'm in a much better shape than saying, there's precisely that number. So let me just go back to that slide here. Sorry. From rough draft to final disclosure. Stains noted. I'm not going to say 2 stains, 3 stains. I don't have to say 2 or 3. They're not big. They're not small. They're not oblong. I just take out every word I can. And all I have left is just stains observed or noted, and that's all. And even the word observed or noted can be superfluous, and we don't necessarily need to use it. Okay, let me just quickly see if there's any questions in here, and I'll look one more time. You can ask me anything at all. I can usually answer it. Don't see it. Okay. All right, where was I on the screen here? Okay, let me go on as time permits here. And again, we have about 20 minutes. Here's some really good advice, in my opinion. Never, ever complete your Avid inspection at the same time the home inspector is there. Now, here is the ideal scenario from a liability standpoint. You have buyers. Today is what, Wednesday? Deal comes together today. And the buyers are going to have the home professionally inspected on Tuesday. And by the way, regarding home inspectors, got to be careful. Keep in mind that the state of unlike a lot of other states, the state of California does not license home inspectors. So we never want to use the expression, I recommend usually buyers, my clients obtain the services of a licensed home inspector. There are no licensed home inspectors in our state. There are certified home inspectors, but that's not a state certification. It's by organizations that, home inspection organizations, and they do a great job. They've got great advice. It's really all good. We just want to make sure we don't ever recommend, especially in the TDS here, recommend a Acme home inspection or something like that, or even our sponsor today, Golden State, just recommend home inspection, professional home inspection. Anyway, we don't want to. Here's a scenario: we have buyers. We got, we're in escrow. The inspection's coming up on Monday of next week. The buyers are going to be there, which is what I want. I want them there, and most of the time they are there. I got to do my Avid thing. I'll do it while they're there. They are at the property with the home inspector. It is not a good idea. Sometimes, rare occasions, if we make an effort, but sometimes we cannot get it done that way. But it's a really, really, really good idea if you can, and to exert some pressure to have it that way. And the reason why is because we look for things that others don't. And we also can exaggerate, as possible, things that others don't even notice. So let me just kind of go through this real quickly here. Oh, let me back up. Home inspectors have a different standard of care than we do. We've got enough to handle in terms of the whatever's in the RPA or whatever. I think it got to be a rocket scientist, attorney to figure all that out. But the same thing with the home inspection field. We have to be careful. There is no state certification. All the states around us do. Washington State, Nevada. No, I'm sorry, Oregon State, Nevada, Arizona. They all license. Well, I thought we'd be the first kid on the block. We're not even close. Home inspectors, here's the point, have a different standard of care than we do. Companies vary because there is no state regulation. But most home inspectors, for example, like the guy on the left, do not do what he's doing. They might look under the sink, but they don't touch anything. It's a very, very limited inspection. So let's say I have the listing, and there's a buyer in play now. And this is the master bedroom. I don't see anything in this photo that I want to disclose. If there was a throw rug next to the bed, I wouldn't mention that. It could be a tripping hazard. Maybe I'm hiding things. Not that I'm going to do that, but I could be accused of that. I'm just want to keep it the way it is. It's a low liability room, and here's why. I don't know what's behind that painting. What's behind that painting? I may want to know, but I don't want to find out, because now I have to move the painting off the wall, look what's behind there. And if it looks kind of looks like a mold thing, we never know unless it's tested. but it looks like it is. There can be some major problems. Maybe that's what it looks like behind that painting. If I were to see that, this would not be good. It's not good to have there. I've got to come up with a disclosure that fits this properly, and I don't want to copy the home inspector on it. So I want to do my own thing. I want to always complete the avid prior to the home inspection. Easy to do on the listing side, a little more challenging when you're representing the buyers because of access to the property. Good idea to never delay the visual inspection because big repairs are coming. Buyers and sellers have negotiated repairs. Usually the repairs do not change what you can visually see in your limited visual focus, and that's a good thing to help you. But this makes sure that whatever is found at the property, after the fact will not make a difference. Days later, when the home inspection is going to take place, it is a really good idea if I am there with the client. Now, a lot of agents do that, but that's the day or the part of the day when the buyers are present, they do their home inspection. We can always visit them at the property and listen to their request to rephrase things. But this is a great disclosure when we just cannot get into the home. So keep in mind that the termite people have a different standard of care than we do. Like right here, this guy is looking under the sink. Now I go pretty well equally dispersed throughout the state. So I do know that companies vary on this. But there are lots of home inspectors, since there's no state regulation for anything they do. It's a great thing to have done. It's just not regulated. That the water could be coming just from the sink. It's dripping, or there's a crack, goes on the floor and goes out the back door or whatever. I don't know. In terms of the transaction, I don't care to know. I want to stay within the best job I can do for my client is to stay within the four corners of that contract. And let me get my arrow here on the adjectives. I want to keep it short and simple. So we got words like small or large or fair or poor, something like that. Colors, numbers, water stain, for example, and mold. This is just kind of a garbled list. There's a way to write things down in a fashion that it shows that we've been at the home, we've navigated through it, we've found our way, but we don't really have much to say. So here is a outdoor patio. It's kind of hard to miss this crack. It's a pretty big crack, goes to another, division in the slabs, and then moves over, not to be defeated, and continues on there, probably through some woods, it looks like. Well, a lot of agents will call that a settling crack or surface crack or hairline crack, cosmetic crack, expansive crack, and it goes on forever. What's the solution? An example like this: cracks noted at wall, at patio slab, at freeway. You're not going to say, I object to the salad dressing on today's salad or something. Nobody's going to be doing that. So there's usually no one coming after you say, no, you need to get this kind of survey done. Okay, so the word cracks, let's focus on that for a minute. The very common disclosure word. Get a sip of water here. Now, this is kind of an exaggeration, but we can get more advanced next time. Rough draft, 3 large settling cracks noted near a mold stain above fireplace, kind of everything wrong. We want to still make the disclosure if the crack looks big enough to make a disclosure. We just have to clean up the language. It's a bummer when you do a visual inspection, you did it right, what to disclose, but it just gets worded the wrong way and it backfires on us. So I can get rid of 3 large. There's no way I'm going to write down settling cracks noted near. Well, I'm going to get rid of mold, definitely above the fireplace. So there's words that I want to get rid of before I write them down. It's a lot easier that way and just much more effective. Now, the agent may not agree with what I have to say or whatever, but that's, to be decided later. So cracks, I don't know if beautiful is the right word. What a very nicely worded statement. Cracks noted near a stain above fireplace. It cannot be debated. You're not getting just a hot air balloon because that wasn't it. It burst into flames and, wiped people out or whatever. So got to be careful. Okay, let's see. What do we have here? We have about 10 more minutes. Let me give you my opinion. Let me just show you something. I have just lots and lots and lots of stuff here. I don't get dizzy. Let me, here, let me cover this. This will be real simple. I want to make sure I don't go over time. This is when you're having, just to make a point, this doesn't happen a lot. The parties at the home are gone. Everybody stopped in for the home inspection or the termite inspection, but everybody's left. I am a real estate agent involved in this, and I happen to be standing next to the termite guy. And we're talking, and I say just about whatever. I said, oh, I see there's some dry rot there on the windowsill. I hope you caught it. Well, I'm assuming that the inspector caught it, but they would not want to write it down that way. And we don't even want to say things like that conversationally. So instead of dry rot noted at the windowsill, to really use that expression, you got to go to classes, get certified, then licensed, and the information is good, but it can be a real nightmare. So we want to get rid of dry rot and maybe just change it up to where there's no evidence that we were actually on the scene before maybe we should have. Damage noted to windowsill, just a better way to go than dry rot noted at windowsill. It's just too litigious. Let's go to another photo. What I call the pack rat room. You'll see why in a minute. This is when I mentioned this just a few minutes ago. I walk in, this is like a shop or something, but it's inside somebody's home. My first thought is, well, there's just so many things here. There's no way that I can disclose everything. And you notice, well, it's really a one bedroom, at least in this part of the house, when there's supposed to be two of them. So we've already got a grumpiness and I don't mean that in a negative way, but just people get upset. Well, I'm going to make my disclosures, and I happen to know that at this property, there's one heck of a, looks like mold stain. I would be careful how I'd word it. I'd just say stain or discoloration, but maybe it is a mold stain. And so I want to make a disclosure about that, but I have to be very, very careful. And let me go to another picture and I'll illustrate what I mean. I don't know if that condition there is behind what I see here. And I don't want to be responsible for that condition. So if my first impression going into a room is, wow, this is too crowded, it's not fair to me, I want to have a disclaimer. And I think you all know that, but something that you may not think about is that when we make a disclaimer like this for that bedroom, extensive personal belongings prevented a visual inspection, we are very, very rarely ever called back. Now, we're willing to come back, but we're not asked back. And, other things get in the way, but we would come back if we were asked. They clean up the room, you can come back, you can finish up. 98% of the time doesn't happen. And so that disclaimer stays essentially as like a permanent record saying I'm not responsible for this room. So there's a story here. Let me just look at the chat room here. Yeah, okay. I won't look at that again. Thank you. So a family room. The story is buyers move in when it looked like it did on the right. They call up and say, hey, we think that the floor is uneven. Can you come over? They asked their agent. So their agent came over. Mr. Homebuyer had a marble. I don't know where you get marbles these days, but he set it down on the floor, tile floor, and it just started to roll on its own. Well, fortunately, when the agent was there doing his avid inspection, the room looked like it did on the left. Now, I don't mean it's fortunate that it looked like it does on the left, but the real thing that he did that was fortunate is that he disclaimed the room. Now, I have it in bold print to make it really easy to read, but for family room, and these are not divinely inspired words, come up with your own. Extensive personal belongings prevented a visual inspection of the family room. And that stays there on the avid, in the file, in the transaction, until if and when I'm called back, and I'm rarely ever called back. So it's a permanent record, protects me. It's not fair for me. I mean, if the flooring was slanted, I should have picked it up if it's to a big enough degree. But you can see from the photo on the left, when I was there, I couldn't do it. I couldn't move more than 3 feet before kind of changing direction. I could not pick up that slope floor. Don't forget, by the way, about the home's exterior in this concept. You know, a lot of people put, I want to use the term debris, but maybe that's a negative. They want to put stuff, you know, they have a boat or scuba gear or whatever, storage at the exterior of their home, or foliage like you see here. Well, you know, I have no idea what's behind that. And just like in a bedroom or family room or kitchen, when it's overwhelmingly full of stuff, I don't want to be responsible for it. So the same thing goes for outside. So something like this is in the notes: extensive vegetation / debris or whatever applies, prevented a visual inspection of portions of the house exterior. So that's a way to go. I think it's an excellent way. I've seen it save the day for many agents. When the buyers move in, there is a problem, and there is this disclaimer on file. There was so much in the way, I couldn't see it, I couldn't get to it, and the sellers did not cooperate with me to try to get it cleaned up. So kind of a funny ending to this part. If it looks like this, forget about it, drive away. It's too much. Maybe in 100 years it will all be kind of evaporate. Let's see, how much more time? Again, about 2 or 3 more minutes. Simple thing here, keep in mind that a very, very popular expression over the years is the term as is. And it's really, I don't think, a good term to use. It doesn't really mean anything anymore. But disclosure requirements do not change in a so-called as is sale. A lot of times you see it on like a real estate sign post or whatever, or in the verbiage that you see. Disclosure requirements don't change in as is sales. If there's something that, like, well, you're not going to go in the attic, so that's a given. You're not going to climb on the roof. You're not going to go in an area that's maybe harmful, or they have snakes in there or whatever. So it can really serve as a permanent record. But when we disclaim it, but the term as is interpreted in so many different ways that, but the main thing is that when you'd probably never do this, but some buyers will say, I'm selling everything. The garage is in fair to poor condition. I'm selling off everything, but if it's not sold by the close of escrow, it's just as is condition. And I don't want to have that. That's a litigious word to use. Okay, let me scroll down to find something. We got building permits, investor clients. I'll almost be done here. Well, this is kind of an interesting one. This is not for the person who got hurt, but there was some flooding in Los Angeles. We've had so much rain. You can see the back of this house where the ground cover just went down. Depending on your age, you might like to know, this is the house of Johnny Mathis. He's a singer, been around forever. Still sounds great, by the way. He's like 87, still going. Let me just show you this picture. This is in La Jolla. Buyers, come on, get my toggle thing here. Buyers move into this. Let me back up here. Here it is. move into this property, and this happens a month after closing. Just look at that. Unbelievable. I'll tell you that story next time. Okay, we're 11:59. Oh, here's real quick. Have you ever saw talking about stigmatized homes next time? You ever saw the Father of the Bride movie with Steve Martin? That's the house. It's in Pasadena. It's a real house. It's not in a studio backlot. And lots and lots and lots and lots of people like to look at that house. And that has to do with stigmatized properties. And by the way, the Brady Bunch house in San Fernando Valley of LA is the most, believe it or not, and I know a lot about this house, next to the White House is the most stigmatized lived-in residence in the United States. So there's lots of other things to talk about. I do want to thank, I'll get the notes out to Teresa right away. I want to thank JCP, LGS, Natural Hazard Disclosures, Golden State Inspections, Legal Services of America. Thanks for being here today. My email is, I'm still with AOL, by the way, believe it or not. It's disclosureinfo is one word, all lowercase, disclosureinfo@aol.com. Thank you again for being here. I'll get the notes off to Michele. And if you'd like me back again for a refresher or just all brand new information, of which I have plenty, I'd be more than happy to help. So thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day.